Good evening and welcome to our Apostolic Faith Mission Gaborone Sisters Fellowship commemoration of the Women's Month. My name is Lesedi Hayemele and I'll be your host for tonight. We're celebrating this month, with a theme, A Godly Woman in the Era of COVID-19. We're going to be discussing it, looking at 4 key areas, which are the social, the health, the spiritual, and the financial aspect. I'm with 4 wonderful ladies who will be helping us tonight in this discussion. With me are Tsegofatso Pheko, Waja Tlhabano, Pearl Moletsane, and Jennifer Manyao. We would love for you to be a part of this discussion, so please take part by leaving a comment or a question in the comment section, and we will read it out as the show progresses. Welcome, ladies. I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves briefly and what you do.
Thank you, Lesedi. My name's Tsegofatso Kennedy Pheko. I'm a social worker by profession. I'm a social welfare officer with Gaborone City Council. Thank you very much.
Wow, social workers o mabibele.
Mabui.
All right. Yes, Waza.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Waja Tlhabano. I'm the infection control specialist at Gaborone Private Hospital. I'll be taking you through the issues of health.
Health. Okay, so you are in the health department. I bet you've been tested 10 times already. All right. And Pearl?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pearl Moletsane, and I work with the youth at the church.
Okay, so Pearl will be looking at the spiritual aspect, eh?
Yes.
All right. We are also with you, Jennifer.
Oh yes, good evening. My name is Jennifer Manyao. I'm a businesswoman as well as a motivational speaker.
Thank you, Jennifer. Businesswoman, so you'll be helpful a lot when it comes to finances, eh? As we discuss.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, awesome. I'm so excited about this discussion. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot and I feel like I'm going to have fun. I hope you'll have fun as well at home. All right, I'll start with you, Ma Waja Tlhabano. You are in the health department. So it means you have been really working with people, and you know a lot, and you really know the stress that has come about as a result of this pandemic.
Thank you, Lesedi. Indeed, during this COVID era, we had a lot of consequences on women's health. As we know that health embraces the social aspect, the physical aspect, the mental aspect, and even the financial aspect. These things, there's a disequilibrium among them. There will be in ill health among people. Hence, during this era of COVID-19, there was a lot of disequilibrium among these 4 aspects, especially because of this new era of COVID. People had fear of unknown, and they were really depressed because of the fear of unknown. And also, especially those who had chronic condition and who are marginalized or who are deprived, like women also, the pregnant women. As you know, that pregnant women, they have to visit their clinics every month, to be reviewed during their pregnancy time. But some of them, they had fear of unknown and they were reluctant to visit the hospital or the healthcare facility during that time. Another issue is the issue of psychosocial aspects. Because of this fear and the lockdown, people were depressed. People were really having anxiety of unknown, and people end up having a lot of conditions. The high blood were going up, the BPs were going up, the diabetic were getting weak because of such. Because once you have depression, it affects all your physical being also. Another thing is the issue of the disruption of the supplies of the drugs or the supplies, because we depend on other countries to supply us with issues like drugs. We ended up having a shortage of supply, which might end up leading people defaulting or not having enough of treatment during this COVID era time. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been hard here. So I can imagine you are trying to curb the consequences or maybe the effects of the disease, the COVID-19, but then at the same time, other diseases are on the rise. It's like, hey, yeah, it's been hectic. And Tshegofatso, what are the key issues that you have had to deal with in social work ever since the pandemic?
Ke a leboga Lesedi. COVID-19 has actually brought a lot of series of problems in our nation. Botswana are people who depend much on hustling. They sell, they get their monies, their food through small things that they are doing. But we realize that when lockdown comes, then it actually blew people away. You know, people could not even sell, people could not get their monies the way they used to. And people, there was too much hunger then that and ended up showing people that, you know what, the government has to step in to help the Botswana Kadijo. So people has actually lost their jobs, or they got their half salaries. So this has actually caused a lot of problems on people in the nation. And there were so many issues of violence, we experienced, Botswana experienced gender-based violence in the homes. And these have affected individuals severely in this nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tshego. All right. Viewers at home, we'd like to apologize for starting this live session so late. Thank you. Remember to take part in this discussion by leaving a comment or a question in the comment section. So, Tshego, you're speaking of the social issues here being the fact that people have lost their jobs. They're not even able to hustle anymore, especially with the lockdowns and how people have been stressed out and everything like that. Is that the only social issue that you've had to deal with during this time?
There are so many, like I was saying, there are a series of issues that arise during this lockdown, during this time of COVID. You know, especially this issue of gender-based violence. The GBV has been a problem in this nation. Not necessarily that the GBV came during the lockdown. It has been there since. It's only that when people are locked down now, we started seeing people having some emotional stresses. We started seeing people having some being abused verbally. You know, gender-based violence is something that that bring along so many issues like emotional abuse, sexual abuse. We realized that people started having, being sexually abused within their homes. This is where now we have uncles, we have aunties, we have small kids in there. And then we realized that people could just, there has been a lot of abuse in the homes. There have been a lot of, because people are not used to being confined in one place. So there has been issues of even verbally, you know, people have been abused verbally, you know, use of words, like Motswana will say, people has been abusing a lot of each other verbally. And people have been affected mentally, psychologically, and it has been, like I was saying, it has been a series of problems arising from this COVID-19.
Pal Maletsane, what about the spiritual aspect, or maybe the Christian view? How has it been ever since the pandemic began?
I think the church has not been immune to the pandemic as well, or to the effects of the pandemic. Christians are Christians within a community, so they experience whatever the community is experiencing. So we too have had to deal with people dealing with a lot of anxiety, people dealing with a lot of fear, people losing their jobs, members having, you know, all type of problems that arose because of the confinement or because of the, you know, the restrictions. They have also come. The church has not been immune. The church as a people has not been immune, and the church as an institution has also not been immune.
So the general health of people has really been affected, even spiritually.
Yes.
Jennifer, how has it been though? How do you think the household has changed in terms of financially? Have you seen any major issues that have been brought about ever since COVID-19?
Oh, yes, there have been a lot of issues that have come up, and all these have risen from the fact that most heads of houses have lost their jobs. Some are on retrenchment, some are on half salary. So you realize that in most households, meals have decreased. You realize that the mother cannot take care of the family as she used to, because most probably maybe the father is no longer working and there's one person working in the house, or most probably there's no one working in the house. As you all know that most of the time when there's a salary depression in the house, what you always resort to, we always resort to hustling. But in this event, usually the hustle that we do is businesses, to small businesses, to vendoring. So you realize that maybe the only opportunity that most people had was to go and be a vendor. But in this case now, you see that all those sectors were wiped from the streets. So actually, there was no way that you can bring in any income into the household. And I've also realized that most families now have children with malnutrition because they are failing to provide basic meals for their children. We do know and we do appreciate a lot that the government has brought in food supplies into families. But still we do realize that food supplies that have been brought will not sustain for a long time. And most of the food that is being brought in is basic food, which needs a lot of other things that you have to look for yourself. And because I'm talking on behalf of those families who almost had nothing or who almost were surviving on hand to mouth. So when you are given a certain portion of food that will last you for 2 weeks, it means for the rest of the other 2 weeks, it definitely means you have nothing. And you still want to come back to say, can I have? And most people don't have anywhere to say, can I have? Because everyone is almost suffering. And because of that, we have realized that there's so much distress in the families. It starts with the children. They'll be asking the mother, what are we going to eat? You don't even know how to tell them that there's no food. Or you don't even know how to tell them that we are not going to have breakfast. We are only going to eat lunch. Yet these children were used to having something in the morning, and then they have lunch, and then they have supper. But in this event, this has all come so heavy on the mother. The mother now has got no option. She doesn't know what to do, and she is so distressed. And once distress hits the mother, it's going to be spread around the house. It will go to the father, it will go to all the children. And then you realize that the biggest problem now that we have is with our youth. They realize, okay, mom is not happy, dad is not happy, everyone in the house is not happy, and then they decide to chicken out of the house. And what do? They end up indulging in criminal activities. For boys, they end up indulging in drugs. For girls, they end up indulging in prostitution. And this is just small prostitution just to take care of their boredom and nothing else. So it has really impacted on the negative side a lot in the household. Yes.
It has had a very negative impact indeed. on people,
Exactly,
and
yes.
It was just spiraling out of control. Yes, Tero?
Yes, and like she is saying, we realize that the women or the young girls, they have been mostly affected by this. Because we realize that if you talk about a woman who is a single mother there, you can imagine a single mother, all of a sudden the salary she's now getting a half salary. How is she going to manage to provide for the family? So we have seen them, even availing themselves for being violated or for being abused, because they have to come up with some ideas on how to put a food on the table. It has really affected a lot of women and our young girls in our homes, in our communities.
Indeed, indeed. Now, with this gender-based violence that you spoke of, how extreme is it? When do you now start calling it gender-based violence? I mean, like you already so when do you know that this is gender-based violence? Like, what will you pick? When can I know? For instance, maybe I'm experiencing it myself. Maybe the viewer at home is experiencing gender-based violence. How will I pick that this is gender-based violence?
Gender-based violence is mainly about an individual experiencing abuse based on the gender identity. You know, when we talk of gender identity, we talk of I'm a woman here, and somebody cannot even realize that I'm a woman, I also have rights, and somebody is stepping on my rights. You know, we all know that a child should not supposed to have sex at the age of 11 and 18 years. A child is ranging from 0 to 18, and you realize somebody is actually abusing this child sexually. So this person, in short, we are saying she's not realizing that I have my own identity. I am a woman. As a woman, I have to be respected. As a woman, I have to be taken as a being. I'm not supposed to be violated. My rights are not supposed to be violated anyhow. So the gender-based violence, it has been there for so many times. It's only that now we have to term it that, you know, people are being abused basically on who they are as individuals.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Prathabano, you spoke about how the pandemic has brought a rise to other health issues, like underlying health issues. So far, we've recorded how many deaths related to COVID-19 deaths are 3, right? 6 deaths by far. And the death rate of other diseases that were somehow linked to the lockdowns and the pandemic, would you say they've also gone up?
Not really, but you find that, like Mapeko was saying, the stresses and depressions and everything, once somebody is distressed and is not having enough, maybe financially, or is not being addressed psychologically or spiritually, some of the diseases, the opportunistic infection, or that's when they rise up, like maybe the hypertension, the diabetic, because the immunity becomes low because of such. Hence, we find that some people were experiencing such because of the anxiety and fear of unknown. And sometimes somebody will just having fatigue and having now it's like developing the signs and symptoms of COVID-19 now because of those anxieties and like that. And again, as you know that COVID-19, the signs and symptoms are like the same one of the common cold. Some people were also afraid to come up to be managed at the hospitals or at the healthcare facility because of fear of being diagnosed of the COVID-19. Thank you.
All right. Pearl, when you're dealing with the rise of all these other issues that come up as a result of COVID-19, have you noticed maybe an imbalance there? When you're looking at someone, maybe you found that people were suffering spiritually because they were mostly hard hit financially, or maybe because other health issues were now involved, or maybe social issues. Have you seen a link or somewhat in terms of balance?
Okay. I can't speak to numbers, or because we haven't really done any sort of analysis of data in that sense. But because of, freedoms have been taken away, or the normal freedoms that we're used to. So that in itself impacts you in a way. So it affects you psychologically, and anything that affects one part of your body affects even you spiritually. So because we are such connected beings as people. So I can't speak in terms of numbers, but yes, there's been such issues, like it's been a ripple effect. One thing happened and it caused a rise to a whole lot of other issues, and we have had to learn to deal with a lot of issues.
So you have dealt with a lot of issues.
Yes.
Okay. Have you dealt maybe with gender-based violence?
Not me personally, but there are some cases that do come through the church.
All right. So with gender-based violence, when you look at the family setups and I mean the whole balance thing, you would say most of the women, are they women maybe who were financially strapped, or women who were not fit spiritually, or maybe women who are already having other health issues to deal with?
Gender-based violence is not actually taking a particular or some type of people. You know, you find that even when people are having finances at home, still there are some aspects that can actually bring in the gender violence, because it's not actually picking people who are poor, or it's not only picking people who that does not have money. It actually comes across the board. That is why I cannot I cannot take people who are going to church or people who are Christians from the gender-based violence. The women in the churches or the children in the churches are still experiencing the gender-based violence. It's actually across the board. It's not for some particular people. It's not for some poor people, or it's not for some people who are hungry, or a certain group of people. It actually goes across everyone.
Awesome. Do you deal mainly with victims only, or you deal with the perpetrators as well?
Thank you very much for that, Leslie. You know, normally the victims are not forthcoming, or it's hard to see a victim. The perpetrators they're not forthcoming, because sometimes as a perpetrator you just tell yourself that I am at the wrong. So we have you don't have quite a number of them appearing to Boma Wipelo or to ask for help, but normally we see the victims who are the ones who are forthcoming to seek for help. And we are appealing to Batswana Bote at home to say, even if you know that you are the one who have caused that, you have actually violated somebody's rights, you have to come forth to the social workers to be assisted. Because we realize that somebody has been, he's now causing pain on somebody else, because he has been living so many years with that pain. So we are saying, even if you are a perpetrator, even if you know that you have been causing pain on somebody else, you have to be coming forth so that you can be also assisted.
If I can add to that, I think it's true healing comes when we live in the light and when we reveal things. So when we keep things in secrecy, we never really experience true healing. So if we want to heal, if we want to be better people, then coming forth, as she's saying, is a better thing, because then you're able to get the counseling that you need.
Absolutely, absolutely.
To add on that, we find that some of them, especially the victim, they'll start complaining maybe of minor illness, headache, fever, like that. And we'll try to analyze whether really is having that fever. We find that there's no fever. At the end of the day, that's when maybe they come out that they have some issues. When you are now really trying to interrogate them, asking more questions on them, that's when they come out. Then you feel that now that's the time you refer them to war. Might be good to deal with them now.
Yeah, I have a friend who sprained her ankle at home. She was bathing actually. She went to hospital and they were just suspicious about the whole thing. Once baru sprain ankle yang, baru ni kita apa pikir lah mau bating. So na kanya lor waktu akan ikar babila lor hakibin. So I guess it's one of those. They were thinking, rumah lockdown ko ha, basa dia batai lah boleh segili hong, basa pir. All right, okay. But what is it though with women not coming out? I mean, when you were younger, when somebody hit you when you were younger, you would want to come out and scream, Mama, umpiri. But today, why is it embarrassing today, do you think?
You know, everything that happens that is bringing in uncertainty on some people or in a human being, it's because of the stigma that normally carries along with what you are coming with. Because most of the time, people are afraid of coming forth. Let me say, for instance, in the church, you know, in the church, the expectation is that everyone has to be living holy. Everybody is supposed to be knowing that the Bible is saying that is not a go area. Then when it happens to you, you realize that a lot of women will start saying, what is it that what are people going to say? I mean, how do I even come forth and say, I've been beaten up by my husband? How do I come out and say, my husband always say vulgar words to me? So normally it's because of the stigma that comes along with what is happening. So everyone wants to appear like a godly being. So that is why we are saying, please, this is a very, very wrong thing that one can tell herself like that. You know, we have to always tell ourselves that we have to report everything that happens to us. So I think it's actually the expectation that normally comes along with our lives.
True, very true. Going back to the household, Manyao. Yes, you spoke about how the youngsters in the household end up becoming desperate and then resort to drugs and prostitution.
Yes.
To what extent have they been doing that, or ever since the pandemic started? Do you know, maybe?
I'm sure it has gone to a massive extent, but if I want to look at it, it goes back to abuse. Because these girls are just being taken advantage of, if they are girls. Because I cannot really call it, most of the cases, I cannot really call them prostitution. It's being abused, and they don't know that they are being abused. Because sometimes they are being abused. They are going to indulge into sexual activities when they are still very young. They don't know what's happening, and all they are promised maybe is a can of beans, a can of beef, and they think, oh, okay, yesterday we slept without eating anything. So if this man says he's going to give me a can of beans, I think that's going to help mommy at home, not realizing that they are just being abused. As for the boys, they are also being abused when they get into indulgence with hard drugs. Someone is seeing an advantage and thinking, these boys, they're just loitering. And you know, because socially we are not supposed to be interacting, but you realize that within the neighborhood, our children are interacting. Because sometimes you don't even know where they are. And they'll interact, maybe they'll go and just hold up in a friend's house. And by so doing, there are drug dealers out there, they're just watching and they're thinking, this is a crowd which is going to give me money. And hence, they just pounce on them. So you find that they end up doing these drugs, but they're not doing them because maybe they really want to do them, but because someone has seen that there's an advantage there, he can make money out of these children. And that's what is happening in the society. That's what I have actually come to realize.
Yes. Have you noticed, any of you ladies, have you noticed any one or maybe any areas or any situation where somebody has used the pandemic to their own advantage to perpetrate others? Hiding behind it.
Thank you, Lisette. We have seen it, but it's not that much, especially on the prices of the grocery. We know that we have been buying palachi for 30 people, and now you find that some of the people, especially in the remote area, so they were selling it at a higher price, knowing that these people that are confined to one place, they'll be forced to buy it because otherwise they won't have anything to put on the plate in the evening.
I remember that during the lockdown. Although I don't remember what I was buying, but yeah, I think I remember something like that. Yes, so.
Yes, even in the issues of sanitizers, we saw people selling sanitizers with a huge amount of money. So people actually has taken COVID as an advantage of actually bringing a lot of money at a go, you know, yeah.
Yeah, so business people have taken advantage of this, eh?
Even on the issues of assisting, you know, we have seen, in my office, we have seen a lot of young women who are so desperately having no money at all. We have seen these elderly men who the young girls are calling blessers. We have actually seen them actually taking advantage of these young girls during this time, where now the young girls now, they don't have, they're no longer selling their wigs around, they're no longer selling their stuff around, and somebody is saying, if you sleep with me now, I will actually give you more money. So this is actually has, even, you know, I'm so afraid of even saying, you know, there are some churches that are calling themselves with the name of God while they're actually not practicing that. You know, they'll call young girls to the churches and say, let me pray for you, because if I have laid my hand upon you, you are not going to have COVID at all. So you see how people even saying, bring on your money, I'll pray for you, then you are not going to catch up with COVID. So these are a series of things that has been happening around.
Capitalizing on people's fears.
Yeah.
It's been crazy, really. You know, I think even in the Christian, you know, arena, like Pastor Pell, can you tell us how you've been dealing with fear in terms of that? You know, people have been saying all sorts of things about the end time, you know, the Armageddon, the you know, the mark of the beast, COVID being it, you know, the new world order. You know, how has it been in the Christian space?
There is a lot of talk out there, and I think it's just for one to be careful what they listen to, and because what you feed grows. If you feed fear, fear will grow, but if you feed your faith, then your faith will grow. So it's for us to sieve out what we listen to and what we watch on social media. The church has sort of been pulled back from being the protective mother that it's used to being, because we are not meeting regularly. Our services are restricted. We can only have 50 people in a service. So in a church like our size, you're probably only able to physically minister to less than 2% of your population. So that leaves 98% open for a lot of things. So I think it's a time or a season where the Christian needs to learn to, I think, you know, when you grow up in a home, you get to a point where you are a teenager, you turn 18 and you learn to stand on your own, you learn to make decisions for yourself. So I think this is the season that Christianity is at, probably in our society now, where we are having to learn to stand on our own, to believe in our own, because if you belong to a big church, the pastor can only take so many calls in a day. The elders can only do so much for you, but a lot is left for you to do on your own.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, so it has been quite a time. Yes, so.
Yeah. No, I'm just when she's saying a lot of people are now independent on doing things for themselves. You know, people have learned that they have to be praying for themselves. No pastors around to pray for myself anymore. Anyway, the pastors will pray, but normally people do a lot of praying by themselves. Actually.
Yeah. We'll go for a break in a few minutes, but before we go for a break, ladies, I'll give you each an opportunity to just speak from your experience what really stood out for you, what hit hard during this time, what really scared you maybe, or what really made you see that this thing was bad. I'll start with you, Jennifer.
The moment that I realized that this thing is really bad was the moment when all the restrictions were put on ground that people cannot go to work, people cannot go out, people cannot socialize, and the worst thing is my family cannot go to church. That was the worst thing. This is when I realized that this COVID-19 is really on, and it's going to hit hard on us.
So the lockdown was the boiling point for you.
It was the boiling point. The lockdown was the boiling point.
All right. Yes, Pearl?
I think for me it's now I think at the beginning back in February when we started hearing about COVID, I wasn't too concerned because I knew that Botswana is a landlocked country, so there had to be a lot of borders that the virus had to go through in order to reach us. But we are finally where it has reached us. So, but I think now is when it's hitting hard for me because now I'm like, the lockdown that was put in place in April. I felt it's now necessary now, but we are out, we are able to move, people are lax with the regulations at the moment, and people think, oh, this thing won't touch me because I do 1, 2, 3, and so when I look at how we're handling it at the moment where it's at its peak in our country, I think that's what makes me think this thing is very serious and we are not taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like the real sensitive time now, eh? Yes. Yes, Matlabano?
Thank you, Lesedi. As you know that with this COVID-19, it's a new disease and it's a new pandemic, and the guidelines and the issues around it, they are like a fridge. We need to flow with them. And we find that once things are changed or the guidelines are changed, there will be a bit of resistance from the community, there will be a bit of resistance from everyone. People will think as if they are being denied or deprived their rights like that. But indeed, the government will be trying by all means to take care of the people so that they comply and we don't end up having a lot of people having COVID-19, because looking at our health sector, our country, we have a lot, the population is just around 2 million. And once if the number can increase, and looking at even our health system and health sector, it's going to be overwhelmed, we end up not knowing what to do. So we are trying by all means to make sure that everything is in control so that we don't get caught up with the situation and we are not able to control it. Hence, people were really, they will jump the borders when they're told not to jump the borders. They will go into the malls when they're told to be on the lockdown at home. They won't do social distancing. They will be everywhere. Once you open for alcohol, it will be worse. So hence, really, the community need to stand up and be able to follow the guidelines so that we can fight this disease and remain a healthy country and healthy Botswana.
So Matlabano, you're saying once we open for alcohol, it's going to be worse?
Yes, indeed, because they have these things of partying and chills and like that, which might end up leading to such things, because they won't control themselves. Though people now fear to come to church, but if you follow protocols, the guidelines according to which were given by the task force, even in the churches, you won't have COVID unless you break the guidelines, you don't follow the protocols. But if you do them accordingly, everything can run smoothly. And you never know that any person next to me might have COVID-19 or not. So you take care of yourself knowing that your neighbor or your friend or your colleague might have it. Let me protect myself.
No laying of hands and laying on of hands. And before you speak, viewer at home, I hope you're enjoying this discussion. We're just really going through the motions right now because we're talking about how hardly hit it has come to us. But after the break, we'll be taking it a bit lighter because we'll be looking at solutions. So don't worry, if you're dampened, if your mood is dampened, don't worry. We're going to have it lighter after the break. But Mapeko?
Yes, COVID has actually, I've learned that Botswana are people who who are hustlers, most of them, you know. We highly depend on touching there and bringing this and that together to come up with food, put the food on the table. So I have hence realized that this COVID has actually changing people's mind, because a hungry lion is a very dangerous one. You know, I've realized that people were so hungry, and the more they become so hungry, they just want to force things, you know. They don't even want to, they just want to forget a little bit about COVID, you know. As long as I can, they're just saying, as long as I can go out and bring something to eat, you know, for myself. So I have hence realized that this COVID has actually on the rise to destroy people's lives. Because now if you take people in the lockdown, how are they going to hustle? How are they going to do that and that to put food on the table? So I've realized that indeed COVID has brought forth a lot of uncertainty on people.
Yes, yes. You know, the money, the hustling and the making of the money. Yeah, because we like to sweat for this money. So, yeah. All right. Viewers at home, please remember to take part in this discussion by leaving your comment or question in the comment section, and we will remember, we'll try by all means to read it as the show progresses. We're going to go for a break right now for a minute or so, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
To all the mothers, the grandmothers, the mother-in-laws, the sisters and the aunts, this Women's Month, we celebrate you. We celebrate your contribution in the home, in the community, even in the church. Bommele batho ba dipelo tse dinte se di tse lorato le itse go godisa le go tlhokomela ra la khola. Motswana a re mosadi thari pele ga setšhaba. Indeed, you are the pillar of the nation. I want to encourage you that even in this season of COVID-19, no matter what you're going through, keep trusting in the Lord. And remember that He who watches over you does not sleep nor slumber. As the AFM Gaborone Sisters Fellowship, we found it fit to honor you by hosting this weekend commemoration. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to tune in again in the morning as we will be having our Mama Ruti sharing the word with us. Halala bomme halala.
Woman in the era of COVID-19. Previously, we were talking about the problems that have hit a godly woman in terms of finances, social, health, and spiritual matters. And right now, we're going to look at interventions or ways of dealing with these problems. Tshego, you've been talking a lot about gender-based violence. Are there any solutions or maybe interventions that have been put in place, or anything that you can say to somebody who feels like they're going through that right now?
Thank you, Lesedi. Viewers at home, I would just want to say that every corner of this nation, we have social workers' offices. When you look at gender-based violence, we will need you, we want you to come forth. Mabui is not just giving out food. She is there, or he is there to assist in even issues of counseling. People should come forth for counseling. Families shall come forth for counseling. Even we have got places like Bo Women's Shelter where people can be kept as part of intervention. So normally what we do when there is a situation at home, you know, as like what is happening like with COVID-19, if there's that we might have that disease, they separate you, right? Now, even with the social workers, that's what they do. When we come inside the home and we realize that there is a situation, we actually separate, we can actually take one of the family members. We take that person to a separate place where when he comes back to the family, he or she can be a better person. So we have different places. We have women's shelter. We have our offices around the nation. Around Gaborone, we have offices around our places. So we're actually saying, if actually one is going through such kind of pains, they can actually go to our offices to get help.
Awesome, awesome. So what about a woman who feels like she's got it? You know, sometimes we learn things and we decide to just live with them. Maybe I've been living with it for a very long time, and yes, during the lockdown, my husband was beating me black and blue. It was worse than every other time. And I decided, but I can still hold on some more. I don't want to go out and reveal my secrets and let the people know about me. What are they going to do except sit me down maybe and talk to me? You know, I depend on this guy. This guy has got a hold of my life, a hold of my mind, you know, and my children. Why should I go out? You know, I have a reputation to maintain. What can you say to me in this sense?
You know, what I can say is that, you know, it's very, very important to, as a being, you have to start by recognizing yourself. It is very critical for you as a woman out there to realize that I'm a woman, I have all my rights, I have a dignity, I am somebody who is supposed to be loved. You know, I love myself so that I can be loved. So it's better to break the silence of being abused. You know, abuse has got its own long-term effect on somebody's life. If you keep silent about that such kind of abuse, in the long run, that's why we see people having problems of depression. You know, before because they know how you can keep on giving your children love or keep on giving your loved ones the care while you are hating inside. So we are saying, come forth, let's talk. Let's see how we can assist you. If we have if the environment is so hostile, we can even take your children to, we have places like Childline, where we can keep your children or to remove them from this kind of abuse. There are so many things that we can actually walk around and see how we can assist you. So we are saying women should stand up and come, because normally women, they are afraid of their issues being heard by many people. I can assure you of confidentiality. Come and we talk. We cannot come out and speak your things out. We are there not to speak your things out, but to help and to assist you. We are not, even the women who are going to church, we are not there to start telling your pastors or any other person you go to church with. We come there so that we can assist you. We don't want you to find you in a situation whereby now you are depressed and we have to take you to Sabrana because now we can't even you can not even recognize your name, because abuse has got a very long, it can come up with the long effects on your life. If
Children, the people around you.
yes, because normally when you are, we experience the abuse, you see mothers now taking the abuse, referring the abuse now to even to their children. So you don't want a situation whereby women cannot even help their children or help their children to grow well. Thank you.
So, I know a lot of things have come to a halt, you know, before COVID, we people, like especially women, we plan out our weddings in our minds, you know. I'll be fantasizing about a wedding that has 1,000 people there celebrating with me, you know, all sorts of things, and then boom, COVID, and my wedding can only accommodate 50 people only, and that's not even a tenth of my family only. And this guy wants to marry me, we want to get married. I really do not, yes, I want to get married, but I wanted a big wedding. Should I wait, maybe hope that things will go back to normal maybe in a year or two and then have my big wedding then? Or I should just give up and get married now and move on? What can you say there?
Yes, COVID has actually brought change. You know, change is not something that is so sweet. You know, change is something that comes slowly to individuals. Change can be so uncomfortable. People feel uncomfortable with what is happening now. But what I can say is that people has to start realizing that whatever I am going to do now. If I want to get married now, I should know that I have to be obeying what Matabano has been talking about. I have to be obeying the rules that has been set by the country. Whether I am a Christian woman there, a Christian lady there who has been waiting, and I really want to get married, then this is the time to say, if you really want to get married now, we have to know that we are going to be abiding now by the regulations that has been set by the country because of this COVID-19.
So what you're saying is I should accept change and just give up.
Yes, even though it's not easy to accept change.
But it's the new normal anyways. Everybody has been saying the new normal, so, and you know how they say change is constant. So that's the thing that we'll be sure of, change.
Yes.
All right. Yes, Matlabano. In the areas that have really been a problem in your field, in your health field, what are the solutions that you can give to a woman out there?
Thank you, Lisedi. As we know that we have our body, which need to be physically fit, psychologically, spiritually, and mentally. We need to also be engaged on physical well-being. We should do some exercises. We know that during lockdown, people are spending most of the time at home, doing nothing. At the end of the day, you find that they become more lazy, and at the end of the day, some of them become obese, which brings to other conditions from them. Hence, we all need to do maybe 3 or 5 minutes exercise, skipping rope, running around, to make ourselves fit. Because yes, we know that regular activity can make your mind to be healthy. And also regular activity can reduce the issues of complication on the issues like hypertension, diabetic, and obesity. And to keep yourself focused and so that your body can be more active, you need to be doing some exercises at home like that. And also we need to eat healthy. Eating healthy does not mean that you have to spend much. Ojabo letlodi, ojabo dinawa, you eat bomosutani, you eat whatever you have been eating, make it balanced. As long as you have protein, carbs, and vitamins and minerals in your diet, is fine. But you eat healthy because once you are not eating well, as Mom Jennifer has said, you end up having malnutrition. So we need to make sure that we fortify our food, even peanut butter for kids, so that they can eat that and have all the nutrients they need, which will make them actively. We know that food does not cure COVID-19, but it boosts the immunity. Hence, we need to boost our immunity for us to live longer. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Any interventions, any solutions for the problems that you've faced, Pearl?
I think it's for us to remember that the God that we serve is a real God. He's very present with us, and he is very much aware of what is going on in our lives and takes quite an interest in it. So if we start from that standpoint and we live our lives in such a way that are for him and are to please him, then a lot of things go well with us, even though our circumstances may not be good, but we ourselves are able to stand throughout or to persevere through our circumstances because we trust in God, or we've put or placed our faith in God. So it's for us to go back to and looking at ourselves and saying, okay, have I been just moving too much, or have I been just listening to sermons at church, doing church, but not really living out the Christian life? Because if I've been living out the Christian life, then I'm able to stand no matter what circumstances come my way, because I know the God that I have believed in, or the God that I've put my trust in. So as a Christian, you're not isolated from your community, you're not isolated from problems that are around you, but you have one in your corner who is able to help you withstand.
Wow, awesome. Jennifer, in the household, we go out there to come back home. Whether it's COVID-19 or not, we go out there to come back home, right? Yes. Any interventions on how we can now, start adapting to the pandemic financially in the household?
To start off, in the household, there's always the issue of food. So what it means is we all have to start realizing that we have to change our meals from the normal meals that we're having. We have to cut down on unnecessary foodstuffs that we were taking. And we have to make sure that we have a balanced diet which comprises of all the nutrients and that we need in our body. So I've realized that we have so many nutrients coming out of our traditional foods. When you take what could I say? When you take these cuisines that we copy from the Western world, you realize that for you to come up with a lot of these nutrients that are needed by your body, to make all of them come up in a meal, sometimes it's very difficult. But if we go to our traditional meals, they don't have preservatives, they don't have any additions in them. They are just natural and organic, which means they retain all the nutrients that we need. It's not like we're eating half of what we're supposed to eat because some of the nutrients have gone, maybe they've been taken by the preservatives, or you've got to combat this in order to earn this nutrient. So what I realize is those foodstuffs that we think are useless, those foodstuffs that we think, oh no, we cannot have porridge in the morning, we want our children to have cornflakes, we want our children to have Cocoa Pops, raspberry Cocoa Pops, all sorts of cereals that are out there in the shops. Porridge is actually a good start for the day.
So swap the cornflakes for porridge.
Yes, swap the cornflakes for the porridge. And some families have gone, they don't want to eat pap. Maybe they want to rely on eating noodles. What do they call those? These pasta, spaghetti. I don't have names for them because I actually hate them. So most of the time I realize most families have gone to eating spaghetti, pasta, macaroni. If we actually, you give a child a meal of pasta, after a few minutes, they want something else to eat. That's when they'll start crying for yogurt. That's when they start crying for those things that you can now not afford. But if you give them pap, they'll make sure that that pap will stay in their tummy for almost 3 hours. 3-4 hours, they'll be good to go. So that means you have lessened the amount of meals that you're going to take per day. So I think that one actually works. I think that will work in our families. And also the other most important thing is to introduce backyard gardening.
Backyard gardening.
Yes. Backyard gardening, it's not necessarily to make a bed on the ground, because then if we make a bed on the ground, that means our water is going to be dried up by the sun before we realize it. And here in Botswana, we do not have water in abundance, and we have to take care of the little water that we have to last us the whole of summer until we get to the rain season. So what I've realized is the best way to do this is to make sure that we harvest water. And we can harvest water within the home. There's bathtubs, some fill up bathtubs. So you realize when you fill up your bathtub, don't drain the water. Use your buckets to take the water and take it outside and water the garden. The garden can come in the form of pots. You can buy gardening pots. If you cannot afford gardening pots, you can make use of old tires. If you don't have a car in the household where you're not going to have a tire that is lying around, go out there amongst those guys who've got tires. Ask them, because most of the tires they have in the streets, they're just tires for display, for people to realize that they do tires. Ask them, can I have 3 tires? Take those 3 tires, either cut them or just put them as they are. You realize that they will hold water. Use buckets that you no longer use. There are all those buckets, maybe they had a crack or you no longer will need them. Use those buckets, put soil in them, and you can put them around the house. You can also use that. And tap water, water from the kitchen. We always wash our hands in the kitchen and the water just drains. We're washing plates, the water just drains. Outside where the kitchen, where the water comes from the kitchen, if you go to the taps that are outside, the drainage system, you will see that outside there's a drainage system where the water is about to go into the drain. If you undo that part, you will realize that you can put a bucket and water can actually drain into the bucket. So all the time, during the whole day, you realize that you have used almost about 100 liters, which has gone into the drain. But this 100 liters, you can use it to water the garden.
Eish, I'm just thinking about the many gallons of water that are wasted. Yo.
Oh yes, we do waste a lot of water, especially in the kitchen. One comes with a cup of tea, they wash the cup of tea. The other one comes with a plate, they wash the plate. The other one comes, they want to wash their hands, they wash their hands. All that water is just draining.
And then
And
I
it's
go
going
and
to waste.
Eish, it's a waste. I can't go nosetsa be ka go nosetsa ka metsi a clean. A ka nyaela ke latlhile metsi a siameng le gone gongwe molora o le le dikotla. Yes, continue.
So all this is a way of reducing that burden that comes to us in the family when you no longer have that salary that you used to have. So, and the other thing is we can also plant, it's not only about planting carrots, beetroot, green pepper. It's also about planting our medicinal herbs. And if you want to realize that our medicinal herbs, they are so expensive to try and get them from the supermarkets. Try and get garlic, it's very expensive. Try and get ginger, it's very expensive. Sometimes the lemons, when they are really out of season, they are very expensive. And those are the things that we need in the household all the time. And also these things also help with COVID-19. We have heard that if you take these medicinal herbs, sometimes it might reduce your capability of getting this COVID-19. And at the same time, these herbs, they also add to our nutrition. They also help to maintain our immune system. And when you have a healthy immune system, that means you are also kind of immune to COVID in a way. So these medicinal herbs, we can also do them at home. You don't need to go and get them from the supermarkets. We can always have them within the household. So much that we can have a household with an intact immunity system.
Wow.
Yes. And then going back to the rest of the family, I have realized that we have children in the family. I've got teenagers, I've got boys that are working, but I've realized that most of the time, you don't ask for their money because as parents you think they have to be responsible in their own way. But you find that they are, because they still take themselves as children because they're staying in the house with you. So most of the time they think the household responsibilities are not theirs. They are your responsibilities, not them. Their money, they all spend all their money going for parties, buying birthday gifts for friends, and for girls it's makeup, it's alcohol, it's this Brazilian hair, it's this type of wig, it's this dress, it's this trending shoe, you know? And that's all they do with their money. Their money is not put to actual proper use. So I've realized that I think if we get to teach our children to also help us in the family, when they are growing, let them know, give them a responsibility within the house, so that they realize that I'm also part of the family in every way. I have to be an all-round child in the household. And then they learn to help you, which means whenever we get to a stage of like this COVID era that we are in right now, we will not have much problems. our children will know that they have to help the family. So that's another thing that I'm thinking the children can also pitch in and also help us. And sometimes we realize children run away from the home. They go and lodge, but this is only maybe a 25-year-old boy. He goes to rent, but maybe he's running away from the home because he wants to have a very independent life. But in this time that we are in right now, I think we can encourage them to come back home. Because when you ask for money from them or when you ask for help from them when they are also renting there, they will tell you that they also have their own problems. But when they come back, it means their rentals that they were paying wherever they were staying, these rentals can also come to use in the house. They come back and stay in the house and their rentals can also, they can also come and reduce the budget and make sure that the house is all comfortable.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah,
Before you say anything, Cyril, we'd like you viewers to continue to be a part of this discussion and send through your comments and your questions. Yes, continue, Cyril.
yes, as she was saying, we have seen the government on the first lockdown giving out food. Dijo tsa bo mabui. But the question is our government going to sustain doing that? Are we going to keep on seeing the government giving out food? Nobody knows, We don't know what is going to come forth. But we are saying, as she has been already said, that let people do something. Let people grow, have backyard gardens. It's even the government is just giving the main food. The government is just giving out bopaliche and stampa. So we are not seeing the government actually giving out vegetables more often. But we are saying Motswana kwa lapeng can just actually add any hela a itemele merogonyana ya gagwe a itemele ha ka kgonang go nna ja teng a nna keeper up le gone gore kana mathapone na supile gone gore ha re ntse re exercise re dira ditiro tsone tse tsa mo lapeng tse le gone gore keeper gone gore re nne fit. So I just wanted to highlight gone gore let's not highly depend, we cannot highly depend on what the government is going to do. Right now we are not even sure that the government is still having more money to buy food for the nation. But we are saying let people do for themselves more often.
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes.
Adding on what they were saying is that we need to come to the era of understanding that we need to be more innovative as women. We need to be self-sufficient. We know that you used to spend money on salooning, paying salon girls and everything. Now you can do like you said. Just take your shampoo, wash it home, comb your hair. You look nice, you see. And you need to try by all means to improve your project at home, because you cannot get money from leaving those salon girls. They no longer have money because people are no longer going for the salon nowadays because of COVID. Hence, people need to be innovative and adapt to the living of this new era and this new we call it new normal, and try to do good hygiene practices which will enhance our health and keep us well. We know that, let us do like the Bible says on the Proverbs 31 verse 13, that we need to be innovative as women. And we should trust that if we become innovative, we can provide for our families and for our, our spouses. You need not we need to provide for them through our hands and through our mind and through our actions.
Oh, yes.
So we should stand up as women. We shouldn't be despaired by these issues of COVID. We should say, this is time for us to rise up and show the community that we can do it, even in the era of COVID.
Oh, yes. Yes. Wow. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Continue to send forth your comments and your questions. I'll read them in a short while. All right, ladies. I suppose a lot of us have reaped or have taken advantage of the pandemic and seen it as a blessing. At least I hope. I'll start with you, Pel. Have you seen any opportunities here, or maybe seen it as a blessing in disguise?
I think the blessing has been the ability to take time to reflect, to we live in an era and time where there are so many things that we do, and we are constantly busy. We are constantly entertaining ourselves. Or
If
it's
you can
always
just
go,
hold
go,
it,
go.
Hold it a bit, Pell, and then we'll get back to you. There's a comment here from Miss Ayanda, the believer. She says, the good thing, however, from this season is that most of us grew spiritually in the absence of church attendance. We had to learn to seek God for ourselves. Oh, what a great journey it has been. God truly does work in mysterious ways. Oh, yes, it does. Thank you so much, Miss Ayanda. Yes, continue, Pearl.
Yes, I think just like Ayanda is saying, it's probably the point I was coming to. The ability to stop and reflect has given us the chance to know where we are as people, if I'm a good person or if I'm not a good person, if I'm truly living out the Christian ethics and principles or if I'm not. So because we have had that time, we have grown as people, we have grown even in our faith.
Absolutely. Here's another comment. This comment is coming from Nkadzi Lemang, and she says, COVID-19 produced what is called shadow pandemics. All right. Thank you so much, Nkadzi Lemang. Thank you so much. Yes. Anything to say on this comment? Anybody?
I think she is very right. There's been a lot. It was a pandemic and one huge one, but a lot of other things have sprung up because of it, and we are having to deal with a lot because of it. But we are able to overcome as well.
Oh yes, indeed.
Ke tsara hore o buile kgantile wa re o lokisa ka mona go senyega ka mona. This is the time where now COVID-19 has shown us that we need to try to close other gaps which we are never, which put us unaware of them.
Here's another comment coming from Edith Bunzibukai. She says, Pastor Pearl, how safe is the church? So this one is actually forwarded to you, Pastor Pearl.
The church is very safe. We follow all the protocols. We actually had health professionals in our church come and give us advice on how we as the admin of the church can ensure that church is safe for the members. So we have gone up beyond and above to ensure that, church is safe. We have sanitizers, we have a hand washing station outside. We follow all the protocols. You have to wear a mask when you are in the building. So we follow all the protocols, so church is very safe. People are free to come. I know a lot of us haven't been to church since March. So
yeah.
Please register and come to church.
Yes, I hope local are paying. Please register and come to church, guys. Come. Yes,
Yeah.
Tiro.
And as much as we are every day going to the shopping malls with those sanitizers at the shops, I believe that even in the church, that's where we will find those sanitizers. They'll be there. Even the distancing, it's actually being observed, Pearl.
Yes, totally. Very true. I see a lot of social distancing. Actually, the most social distancing I've seen ever since it started is in the church. These chairs are far apart. You. Yes. Viewer at home, please continue to send your comments, your questions, and we will try by all means to read them out. I see a comment here from Beatrice Chizange Nyabaza. She says, Mapeko, is it only women who are facing abuse? Do we have men who are also victims of abuse?
Thank you very much, Manyabaza. Men are also facing abuse at homes. Individuals are experiencing different types of abuse. Individual men are experiencing verbal abuse. They're experiencing sexual abuse. We have recorded so many cases during lockdown of men who have been raped by other men. The young boys who have been raped by their uncles in the homes. So we cannot single them out to say they are not experiencing abuse. We have seen men who have been, we have women, that one is a fact that we have women who are actually beating men in their homes. The fact that they are no longer providing to the families. We see a lot of men being abused by women who are staying with them, whether married or cohabiting. we realized that so many men, they go through such kind of difficulties during this time of COVID. Not only during COVID, it's something that has been coming along back ago. But during lockdown, we realized that it actually came forth in a very forceful manner. Many men has actually experienced a lot of abuse. Many men has actually not coming forth with money home, because many of them have been, like we were saying, a lot of Botswana, they are hustling. So they have been hustling there. Now the hustle has stopped because of this lockdown. And they cannot provide for their young ones, their loved ones at home. So even men themselves, they even tend to be abusing themselves, because a man who cannot provide for his family, they tend to be stressing themselves up. They start to be referring themselves as failures. They see themselves not men enough to supply for their families. So this has brought forth the depression on them. So many men have suffered depression during this time. And they actually feel they have failed their families. So abuse is just across the board. It's not only on women. Even men, they also experience such kind of abuse.
Yeah. Here's another comment. It's coming from Ms. Ayanda, the believer. She says, Pastor Pell, do the youth in the church ever find themselves as victims of GBV, and do they speak out?
I think because earlier we had mentioned how people don't often speak out. So, and in the church, I think we have a lot of that. People don't speak out. And when they do speak, it's when now they bring it as a victory story that I went through this, but now, God was able to help me, and therefore, but when it's happening in the moment or they are going through it, they don't share. They only share years later that when I was this and that, or when I was that, at that time, I was experiencing this, and then they come and share it after they have overcome the event or after they have overcome the abuse, and so in the middle of it, we find a lot of people choose to suffer in silence, and it's only when you are very close to the person that you are able to pick things and get to know what they are going through. So I would encourage people to really speak up when they're going through abuse, to find a refuge in seeking counseling and in seeking help. The church is available to stand and to help you get all the help that you need and walk through all the steps that you need to walk through. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a question, just hold it and then we get back to it when you get. There's a comment from Muhao Bunzibukai. She says, Mapeko, according to statistics, who are the main perpetrators of GBV? What could be the cause of such actions portrayed by that gender?
I don't know whether to go back to Pels. Before I answer that, maybe let me just say that many Christian women, they even in my office, the experience is that they cannot even mention that they are Christians. Maybe they will mention it when now we're almost done with helping them or assisting them with our counselings. So normally we realize that to capture the fact that somebody is a Christian or a young lady who is who is a Christian, it's not easy to record that, because they don't easily mention that they are Christians. Yes, when I go back to Mahau, I cannot actually mention the statistics of who are the main perpetrators of GBV, but what I can say is that according to the researchers, you will find that there are, out of 5 men, 4 of them are perpetrators. Out of 5.
Wow.
It's a worldwide statistical, the research that has been done. The reason there being that in our societies, it's like men has never got to have enough education when it comes for maybe things that they need much in life. The time they fail, on their failures, they now come back to abuse the other person. there has been many a times men fail to express themselves in what they want. Let's say somebody is with a girlfriend, and then the girlfriend starts to say, I cannot have sex before marriage. Now the men tend to come back and say, they cannot actually stand and sit down and talk with this young lady. What they want to do now, they want to show their egos that I am a man. You are going to do exactly what I want. So most of the time, men, they are not people, they're not easy to mention what they are going through. Maybe you realize that many men, when we are going through counseling somebody, counseling a perpetrator who has been done something wrong, you realize that they have been actually gone through abuse before in their childhood, and they did not get help that time. Now, when they are grown up now, this is the time where they want to show somebody that I am a crying person here. I am crying and I did not get help on that time. Now this is what is happening to me. So basically that actually has been happening all along. I can say that some of the things we have realized in my office.
Absolutely, thank you. Here's another comment from Edith Bunzibukai. She says, as Christian women, are there any interventions in church to help those going through GBV? I believe Pearl spoke about it earlier. Yes.
But I think I can also just highlight that the church is indeed available. We do offer counseling and we do engage professionals where there is need. So we do assess situations and we're able to, I think we all come to the same church and we all sit under the same teaching, but not all of us believe the same. Or when I take a teaching, I end up, interpreting it with my own interpretations. And that leaves a lot of people thinking or believing that to ask for help is wrong or is a sign of weakness. And I don't have enough faith, or when I'm going through trouble, it means that I don't pray enough, or I don't, whereas problems happen to every one of us. Even pastors do have problems or challenges that they experience. So if you come forth and you speak about what you are experiencing, we're able to bring correct teaching, we're able to bring correct guidance and correct advice, and also engage professionals or whatever is to our disposal to use to be able for your benefit and to help you.
Thank you so much. We're about to end the show, so I'll give you ladies an opportunity to give your last words. Just remember to give maybe opportunities or the blessing in disguise that you've seen in your areas. But just feel free and give our viewers at home your last words. I'll start with you, Mapeko.
My last words, let's speak out. Let's not shy away from everything that is happening to us. Let's not feel uncomfortable and slip away with our uncomfortability. Let's come forth. Let's break the silence. Let's love ourselves. It's very important and critical to love ourselves before we can be loved by somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mapeko.
Thank you, Lucette. My last word is that we should keep informed as Batswana. We should listen to the advice and recommendation concerning this era of COVID-19. And also I'll say, since this is the time for new technology, we should also learn to use the technology and adapt to the technology. This is the time for us to use the Zoom and other platform for communication, even for services. This is the new time to learn more technology. It has given us time to look back and see what we have been doing wrong and to correct them. Let us adapt and adjust, because we know that we are still having COVID with us here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matlabano.
Sorry about that. I think this is a time for us to live with the awareness that the world will end. It might not be now, but eventually the world will come to an end. And to live with the awareness that Christ is coming again. And so therefore we need to ensure that we live each day as if it's our last day. Always eager to do the will of God and always eager to please God. So if we live that way, I think it helps us solve a lot of problems that we experience, or it helps the perpetrator stop being a perpetrator. It helps the victim to gain the strength to get the help that they need. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So the perpetrator needs help to stop being a perpetrator, and the victim needs help to go out and stop being a victim as well. Okay. All right. We have one last question, and I think this question will be yours, Jennifer Manyao. It will be yours, and then you'll wrap up after it. But I think the ups for me during this pandemic, especially in the lockdown, I think I saved a lot. Yo, social life is expensive. Yo. It's expensive. I think I saved a lot during I did actually save a lot. This movement thing is expensive though. So yeah. Okay, so the last question here is from Beatrice Chizanje Nyabaza. She says, how do I save electricity since the 22% increase? My meter has been misbehaving. Electricity in the household, Mama Nyo.
Electricity in the household. The only way we can save electricity in the household is to make sure that when we are in the house, especially night time, make sure that the lights in the rooms that you do not use or you are not using at that moment, make sure that the lights are turned off. And also make sure that when you're making your meals, stop the habit of cooking your meals on 3, on 2, because you want to watch TV, because you want to go on Facebook. So you are going to reduce the stove to 2 or to 1, and the stove will take from almost an hour on 2, and yet you are making a meal that you're supposed to make within 15 minutes. So I think we have to adhere to that as well. Make sure that we cook our meals very fast, and also to make sure that our electricity is saved by, maybe if you can get firewood, maybe use firewood in things that you are cooking that take longer to cook. There's tripe, there's cow feet. Those
go outside,
take-
go scare me.
Those
All right,
take,
yes.
even beans, those take very long to cook. So if you can capitalize on that and use firewood or use gas when you're cooking those things, and don't use electricity. Because gas is expensive, of course. It's not that it's a cheaper mode of using, but I've realized that it cooks faster than electricity. So that means if you are going to cook your beans, if you cook them on gas, they are going to cook very fast. I think that's about it.
Any last words?
My last words are to the woman of today. We want to create some resilience in us as women. Let's go out there as women. And I think the COVID-19 era has taught us that there are so many skills that we are sitting on. There are so many things that we can do at home. I actually didn't know that you could make mayonnaise at home. I have never figured it out that I could make mayonnaise in my own house. I thought I just have to go to the supermarket and get it. How they make it, I thought it was so complicated. But I realized, no, it's not complicated at all. It's 1, 2, 3 ingredients that you have in the house every day.
Wow.
And you can make your mayonnaise. So I'm thinking, let's utilize social media, not only for the sake of going to the Facebook, go to Twitter, and just pass some comments on some stories going on that have got nothing to do with you. Go on social media. Go where it says gardening. You'll see these tires that I'm talking about. And you'll even see more modes of gardening in the house. Go there, go to where it says easy meals. Check how easy meals are made. Go there, go and check traditional meals. You will realize how traditional meals are made. Go on there, check baking. How do you make sponge cake? Instead of going to the supermarket all the time to go and get sponge cake for the family, you can have it every day in your own home.
Yes.
So I think it's all about for us to use our skills. We have loads of skills lying around in the house. Most things, even plumbing. Get your boy children out there. Say, no, there's a blockage in the toilet. We are not going to call the plumber because the plumber does not have a permit. The plumber is coming so far away, they do not have a permit, or we do not have the money to pay the plumber.
Yeah.
Make the boy child investigate, where is this water coming from? Why is it not going this way? Maybe the block is there. Untie that place, you realize that, okay, yeah, there's some fat that is there. Put warm water in there, and then the water is going to drain. Make use of everyone in the house, because our skills that we are holding behind us, those are the ones that put expenses on our lives.
True, absolutely, absolutely. Wow, this has been so informative. I'm so enlightened, and I had a lot of fun. I hope you viewers at home had a lot of fun and are informed as well, just as I am. Have you had a lot of fun as well, ladies?
Yes, we have.
Yes, that was our commemoration of the Women's Month by the Sisters Fellowship at AFM Gaborone. I want us all to wish the women there at home a happy Women's Month. So if you can just do that. Happy Women's Month. Yeah, and it was a happy one. Eh? Thank you so much for joining us. This is Lesedi Gayemelwe. Join us again next time for a wonderful and informative live session. God bless you.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. I hope the discussion was an encouragement to you and there was something that you can use in your own personal life. Do join us again tomorrow as Mama Ruthie takes us through Esther's story and encourages us with it. Have a lovely evening.